over 70, 80, 90. I see many people standing here. Today, I'm going to present Avascan research work. But first, I would like to say a few words because I think I'll need them to say them to you. I feel we're at the verge of the latest trends in technology here. And Avalanche is supposed to be the winner takes it all in the crypto economy. So remember, Gun said it earlier, but I think it, and I think you all think this, we are here to stay and to work on this for the future. So some of you may know me, some may not, but I think they most likely know the project I work on. It's called Avascan. We are the prime explorer for Avalanche. 2022 is the year of subnets for Avalanche, and not only in my opinion, the ecosystem will grow insanely. To understand how the subnets will be this year, we will need to understand how the subnets work and how they relate to Avalanche. But first, I need to tell you exactly what they are. So, as you can see in this image, there's the mainnet, which everyone is using, and the testnet, also called Fuji, that developers use to test their applications before launching on mainnet. So each subnet is basically a committee that validates the transactions of the blockchains in that subnet. Every validator can validate one or more subnets, but they must validate the primary network by default. Mainnet and Fuji are called networks. Inside networks are subnets. Subnets validate blockchains. This is not easy. We took a lot of time to understand this. And since every validator needs to validate the primary network by default, the primary network is the one with the most decentralized, and the biggest one. And we know it. Maybe some of you will know it, some will not. But it has 3 chains. That is P chain, X chain, and C chain. If you came to DeFi during Avalanche season 6 months ago, during Avalanche Rush, you most probably only interacted with C chain. While if you got Avascan ICO or used it from the beginning, you most likely have interacted with all 3 chains at some point. A blockchain is really diverse on Avalanche, can be really diverse on Avalanche. It's composed of 3 modules. The first one, as I said, is the subnet. A blockchain can be validated by one subnet that is composed of 1 to 1,000 validators. Right now, I think we have about 1,400 validators on the primary network. The second one is a Genesis block that contains the code for the Coinbase at launch and some minting parameters. And then there's the third one that is the virtual machine, that is the operative code of the blockchain. And right now on Avalanche, there are only 2, Avalanche and Snowman++. There are a lot of types of VMs right now running on mainnet. You have platform VM, AVM, EVM, timestamp VM, and so on. Many more can be created. The word here is heterogeneity, because VMs are heterogeneous. They can be customized. And so this is a challenge, and I will explain you now. This is one of the thousands of emails that we received in the past 12 months from one of you, maybe, I don't know. And it said, okay, good morning, I transferred BNB 0.56, wrong BNB, I went to this address. Well, of course, we deleted all the information. But, I said, please, because I sent it wrong and I don't know what to do now, help me. So since Avascan, our job is not just to show you transactions, is to let users understand the complexity of the blockchain, is to let the mainstream, I think maybe in 10 years we will be 4 million here, we will not be 4,000. And so we will want to understand how to divulge this complexity to others. This is another. And, it's a lot. And since we received them, we said, okay, we need to establish a unit that does just this. Now, we call this forensic analysis. So we have a couple of people right now, and we hope to build this team for a long time, and build it really big to actually understand what's on chain and how we can represent it. This is another one, and this is a tweet, very recent tweet. Someone has said, okay, Trader Joe USD is not supported on Anchor because the USD you buy on Trader Joe, David, if you're here, look at this, and is not supported by the Anchor protocol network. That means you cannot buy the native USD. So what happens? It happens that you may buy the same token, but in fact it's not. You know, if you go on Avascan, for example, you see that it's a different token address. But you know, it's not user experience, it's development. No, it can't work like this. So the first question we need to do is, we ask ourselves was, what exactly is an address? So since VMs are heterogeneous, and blockchains are validated by subnets, and there are a lot of modules here, we started with asking ourselves what an address is. And we can say that an address has many different implementations of itself. For example, when you look at platform VM, the one behind P-Chain, as a UTXO transaction model, understand this, transaction model and consensus are two different layers, and a consensus Snowman++ in a chain of blocks. Then we have AVM, that's the one behind X-Chain, that has a UTXO transaction model, like the one on P-Chain, like the one on Bitcoin, but has an avalanche consensus in a DAG, so like IOTA. And then we have C-Chain, it's an EVM, so we have an accounting transaction model and a Snowman++ consensus in a chain of blocks. So we need to understand that are different in implementation of address. So for example, with AVM and platform VM, the UTXO transaction model, we call it owners. Because that is exactly what they are in the code. They are owners. Owners can spend UTXO, not addresses. There are different types of owners. One of one, and it's a single address. One of n, m of n. You should see in the code. And we call account when we're referring to an account in the EVMs. This is the simplified version. It was really bigger than this of our research work that we did to understand how addresses work and relate to each other. We will publish this as well as a number of other definition, other work that we did later today or in this week on our blog. So you can dive on that later. So for example, we said an address can be many things. So it can be an owner, it can be an account, it can be a smart contract when it's on Ethereum. For example, who knows what was a Genesis set? Try to guess. What can be a Genesis set? Genesis? No one?
The seed phrase?
No. Something like, well, yeah?
A set of accounts at the start that are funded?
Founded.
Funded accounts?
No. We call it...
Set of parameters?
No. How many of you got Avascan ICO? Okay, you got them at launch, right? So we call the list of owners that got Avascan ICO the Genesis set, because it has really specific information, conceptual information, economic information that we can use to trace the money, how the money flows. For example, for the team of Able Labs or the foundation, we have this list. You can look on ecosystem or team on Avascan, and you will see the list of addresses that have a tag for the Genesis set. We don't call it Genesis set on Avascan because we will need to explain it to you, but you can see it by simply going on ecosystem or team or airdrop or whatever. And this is one. Then an address can also represent the treasury in a dApp or in a project. And then it can represent an exchange wallet, for example, Binance, CoinEx, Crypto.com, etc. The smart contract, instead, we have a technological classification. So smart contract can be an NFT collection based on the ERC 721 standard, or it can be a factory that deploys new liquidity pool tokens, or a router that ensures DEX swaps happen efficiently on DEXs, or it can be a token based on the ERC20 standard. Looking at this, all the addresses, we decided to only focus on the token today, because it will be really huge to talk about everything. So we will talk about AVAX. The AVAX is a really, it fits really well in most of the concept that I'm going to tell you now. And we will follow AVAX's path as we virtually move it across subnets and blockchains and back and understand what it has become of it. It's not simple. So, AVAX is minted on P-chain. You did know that? I did know that it was minted on X-chain first, but then when I talked about it to developers, they said, no, it's minted on P-chain, so it's native there. It means that you should trust the organizer of this event, Ava Labs, that has done a good job in development and deploying it. So we say that a native token is one where you only need to trust the protocol itself and the team or community or individual that developed it. So there's a direct connection between you and who actually developed the token. Then let's say we take AVAX from P-chain and we move it to X-chain. So a lot of you did this maybe in September, October 2020 when they first got their AVAX. Maybe some of them delegated on P-chain or started a validator, but maybe many of you, moved it to X-chain to then move it to Binance to sell them. And so X-chain, when it moves from P-chain to X-chain, is a bit different. Why is it a bit different? Because on X-chain is actually liquid. You can actually exchange it. On P-chain, you cannot. So this is one big little difference. Then we move it from X-chain to C-chain. You see, the color has changed. This is how we identify, the chains on Avascan. And this is also slightly different because it's different liquid, because you can trade tokens from X-chain or C-chain. You can deposit them into centralized exchanges like Crypto.com, Binance, and it has a certain kind of liquidity, so a certain kind of redeemability. But when you move it to C-chain, it can change a lot. Because when you move it to C-chain, you can also interact with DeFi. So you will need a smart contract that will fit the AVAX native token into an ERC20 standard. And that's what we call wrapped AVAX. So wrapped AVAX has changed name because it has a new symbol, and it also changed liquidity because AVAX is liquid on centralized exchanges, Crypto.com, Binance, while wrapped AVAX is liquid on decentralized exchanges. We know bots have made on some arbitrage to make the price equal, but in the same exact time, they are not the same because the trades are actually different. Then let's say we have wrapped AVAX on C-chain. Let's say we are trading on Trader Joe, and then we want to move it to another chain because with the Avalanche Multiverse Incentive Program, a lot of subnets will be using a lot of money to incentivize users to move from C-chain to their subnet. We do it with an EVM bridge. One is the chain bridge, from ChainSafe. And there are two types of bridges, actually. The software is the same, but the concept and the actual structure is different. Because when you do, for example, a bridge between Avalanche and Ethereum, you're actually bridging two different networks. While if you bridge from, for example, from C-chain to, for example, a Swimmer network from Krabada, you're actually bridging in two different subnets in the same network. So it's not the same, Take that into account. So for example, let's say we bridge it to FoodChain, and then we have maybe a different symbol, surely a different contract address. We have a different liquidity because I don't yet know cross-subnet access, so liquidity cannot right now be aggregated across subnets. Trader Joe, Pangolin, someone? Maybe. We'll think about it. And so, it can be, different. This was a lot, right? So let's, redo it again one more time so it's clear. So on P-chain, it's the baseline. On C-chain, slight change, but we can say there's almost no change. When it's wrapped into wrapped AVAX, the symbol change and the liquidity changes because it's on two different markets. And then when we bridge it to FoodChain, we have actually everything. There's also trust change because you're trusting both the bridge manager and the validator of the subnet. There's a subset of validators, not everyone, every validator. So we can also do another game like this, another journey like this, but we will take another token to do this. We will take the Avalanche mascot. That is easy because it will not offend anyone or any kind of initiative, but we will demonstrate with this that it can become really, really complex. So let's say we deploy a Wolfie token as an AND Avalanche native token on X-Chain because it's really easy to go from the Avalanche Go node. Then we move it to C-Chain and we wrapped in a C20. It's called Wolfie the same. Then we make an agreement with a new subnet called DexNet that has a DEX chain that has some 10x boost on farm rewards on their DEX, but only if you bridge from C-Chain to that subnet. So everyone will want to move there. Then, when farm rewards end, because they end, we make an agreement with another subnet called HODLNet that has HODL chain. Yeah, I made a lot of references. Yeah. Hope you like it. Also, I have this reference. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's the mascot here in the logo. Yeah, and I will have one T-shirt ready for you at the end of the talk. So for the first one that makes a question. And so we bridge it, but we say we want liquidity to be bridged only from DEX chain because we don't like them anymore, and we don't want them from C chain. We want them from DEX chain. So we have a different token address, maybe a different name, and we have a different liquidity, also different price maybe because there's a different market. Then we make an agreement with Trader Joe and say only those who come from HODL chain can have a 20x boost. We can do it because a different contract address, maybe a different symbol, there's a different liquidity, we can do it. But we've come in circle and we have 3 different tokens. How messed is that? So please, if you haven't done this, bridge tokens via C-Chain. Make C-Chain your gateway. Because this is really hard to understand. This is really the core concept. Remember the email that I showed you at the beginning. But even if you haven't done that, maybe if you're already in talks with doing a bridge or whatever, at Avascan we're already working on this. This is part of our process to actually see how data are being exchanged and then show them. So, for example, the first step of our process is to actually try and get as much data from the Avalanche Core ETH node, Core ETH for EVMs node as possible. So, and when we do this, we need to save these data as data structures in our databases. And so we ask ourselves, how can we actually structure this data? And then foremost, how is this data influencing other structures? Maybe we need to modify other structures as well. And how is this, simplifying also the user experience, or is this, making complexity? And then we need to show this. We need to show new features, new pages. This is hard. We iterate really. It seems like we don't do a lot because we maybe release once every couple of months or so. But we do a lot of work inside because 90% of our process is before the UI, and then 10% is the UI. Because the work we do is not to show people; is to index data. We don't simply show the data we get from others. We have custom indexes. We call our indexes Norge. We are now in version 2.0 of Norge, and I will tell you about it right now. So the first step was X-Chain. Avalanche was launched in September 2020, 2021, and 2020, and we needed to launch with Xchain. We actually launched on September 1st, so 20 days before the launch of Avalanche. And we needed to find a way to actually, visualize all the data on Xchain, because it was a UTXO model in a DAG, so some like IOTA and some Bitcoin, so a mix of views. And then a couple of months later, we indexed C-Chain. C-Chain was hard because we needed to understand how our new architecture would add up to the current one. And we made the simplest choice. So we had a C-Chain indexer and a C-Chain model, an X-Chain model, and we just adapted it. So for example, one of the most interesting changes you see from X-Chain to C-Chain is the fact that we just have from and to instead of inputs and outputs. But we have your feedback. We have your feedback that you like familiarity for EVMs, and we will do it. And that's how I'm going to show you how. But then a couple of months later, Ava Labs released an update to the Avalanche code node, and they said, okay, you can now wrap X-Chain assets into ERC20 tokens on C-Chain. And so that was the first of our journey to understand, what if we can actually aggregate tokens based on a subnet level and not on a blockchain level? Because as the Avalanche Foundation always says, a subnet is like a country. You can have a jurisdiction. The set of validators represent a jurisdiction with custom rules. So it's like you have multiple currencies, like in Italy or here. It's the same rules. So we need to aggregate tokens not based on the blockchain level, but on the subnet level. That's why we built the market cap page. So you see, for example, right now, we have Avalanche is the only native token on X because we don't have yet P-Chain, but will arrive. And then we will have all the information about X and C-Chain tokens. And we are building it to have more granular data and to also, with the help of our forensics team, to actually be on top of every new airdrop release or new lock tokens. This is really hard, guys. You make a lot of things in your tokenomics, and we will need to understand it. So this has consequences for people to see, And then the last piece of the puzzle, as I said, is P-Chain. P-Chain, has already been indexed by Ava Labs, but we are also in the final steps of indexing it. And it's the last piece of the puzzle, and it's really, I think, the most complex one to build it from a UX point of view, because transactions on P-Chain are operations on the whole network. So for example, when you create a new blockchain, you do it on P-Chain. When a subnet has a new validator, you do it on P-Chain, and its effects are scattered across all subnets or blockchains. So it's a really complicated way to build it. But I can announce today that we are almost ready to release P-Chain indexing phase 1 with transactions and blocks list. And we have also the first version of our owner details page that is the implementation of address on P-Chain. This has been a fantastic journey for us because we understood that with all this, we could build a multi-subnet explorer, not just a multi-chain explorer. Because, as I said before, not aggregating tokens on a blockchain level, but on a subnet level. So that's why we're starting from the address details page. That's the focus of the talk. And, building a new version that will be based on what you actually see in a lot of services that you use, DBank or whatever dashboard you're using. You will be able to connect with this with Web3, with your wallet, and you will be able to access all your data across all the subnets on Avalanche in one simple way, one page, just one page. And it will also be contextual. So, for example, if you have a smart contract, you will have the contract section. If you have an owner on P-chain, you will have the staking details, well, validating or delegating. And if you have if the address represents something like a treasury, a DEX, or a centralized exchange, or a token, or a bridge, for example, you will be able to access all the detailed information about that address. You know, multiple addresses can belong to the same structure. For example, let's say Platypus Finance, let's say that's a project that many, I think, use, has maybe a treasury, has team wallets, has airdrop wallets, has liquidity pool addresses, smart contracts. So it is a lot of things. We need to, address all this in a simple way. We need to also let users understand how price moves based on liquidity pools. So for example, if there is a token that is present on just 2 liquidity pools, its price, it's influenced in a ponderated way in these pools. So for example, maybe 10% in one pool and 90% in another. So we will do this, and we will release this over this year and also next year, because this is a multi-year project. You know, this is really, really big. And we will do this as we grew from 7 people in August 2020, first before an avalanche rush, to 15 now, and aiming for 30 by end of year. So I think, I hope that this has been something that worked for you, something that you understood, something about bridge tokens and the subnets, and how it can increase complexity. And we are working with the first few subnet deployers to release the first version of their indexing, their subnet integration. And we will enable this through our scan token. Many of you have asked us during the last 12 months, when scan. We can say that can arrive 2022, maybe early 2023, and we will be valuable in having the partnership deals with the subnet teams. We are also, you can also help us support our growth if you're a whale, a really big investor, and you can join the Wolves of Avax Investor Collective that have an exclusive path for buying scan tokens first when they arrive. So I guess this is it, and I'm open to questions now. Thank you. Thank you.
We are actually seeing that Bitcoin with Taproot would allow anonymous transaction. How will Avascan manage subnet that will allow that kind of things? Will it be
UTXO model, you mean? You mean Bitcoin?
Yes. The question is, Bitcoin will somehow allow anonymous transaction with Taproot. We have other blockchains that allow anonymous transaction.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be some subnet that will aim to have anonymous transaction.
Yeah.
How will Avascan manage those kind of anonymous things?
I can say that there is basically no answer right now, because as far as I know, the virtual machines that can power new blockchains and so new subnets can only be plugins of EVMs, so forks of EVMs, so subnet EVM, etc. And they don't have privacy, anonymity built in, just pseudonymity. And so UTXO-like transaction model, that will be a different challenge for us, and maybe a new talk about this, because this is actually really, really hard, and we can only infer how much you have spent as a UTXO to another address, and how much is actually the one that you're returning to your wallet. So we are actually thinking about building some model to understand and infer this kind of data, like blockchain.com does. But the thing is, they have 6, 7, 8, 9 years of experience, and we just have 1.5. So it all comes to that.
Thank you.
Bridges, I think there's a lot of bad energy around bridges. Do you see bridges between subnets as the only solution, or is something in the works with Avalabs to produce something native in?
No, I know there is something. There is something in the roadmap that is like some native bridge, some native cross-communication protocol, something like that. Yeah, but what I think, this is just my point of view for the Avalabs roadmap. What I think is that they just beginning to onboard as many projects as possible. You will see many gaming subnets in the summit. And I think this is just a way of, let's onboard everyone, let's understand that this is working really, really good, and then we will have some different model of trust.
Do you think we'll have this massive amount of tokens? Like you just showed, one token is specifically one concept, but we have about 6 different, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, but that's what, that's not the symbol, that's the token, token address. And that's really the thing, because if you change the symbol, it can be a little bit easier, because you actually see the difference. But in the tweet I showed earlier, maybe I don't, but the UST that is called UST on Trader Joe, and instead it's a different contract address because it's Axelar wrapped. So it's a token bridged from another bridge. And for example, AnySwap, every bridge has its own method of bridging tokens. So for example, one of the reasons because we are not indexing as many bridges as we just right now we just index the transaction for the Avalanche bridge, is that because every bridge has its own rules. So for example, I know that AnySwap has when you deposit your token, you receive a receipt, and then the receipt is just bridged over to the other side, and then another receipt gets created, and then the receipt gets redeemed for another token. It's actually 4 tokens, like something like that. And maybe it's a little bit easier, but it's really complicated. I think the first way in which we can simplify things is to actually use the same bridge software. This is one of the few, and then we can use a gateway chain. I think C chain will offload when all the gaming subnets will expand, and maybe it will not offload because a lot of users will come into Avalanche, the next million, the next 2 millions. But we'll have there are different proportions. Right now we have 1 million transactions per day. On C chain, maybe we'll have 1 million, but the overall will be 50 millions. So yeah, and yeah.
Have them set up nodes or like, how exactly are subnets created?
So subnets are, I'm not a technician here, and I'm not a developer, but I can say, some superficial things. What can I say is that Avalabs has done a really great job in developing some frameworks, packages that lets developers create a subnet in really, 2-3 steps, and they basically deploy 5 node validator nodes and 1 or 2 chains based on EVM. So that is a certain trust model, because you will need to add subnets, you will need to add validators for the subnet. But this is the quickest way to onboard as many users as possible. But you need to take that into account. I think the main takeaway from this is, remember that the redeemability of a token is not certain. I must say this joke. We all know with Wonderland, but that's it. Tokens are not redeemable as much as we'd like to. So we need to be careful about this. And we as Avascan, we need to be careful about how we show this, because we have a a duty to show users the best information possible.
Curious based on this hellish journey of a tokens hellish journey description, if you think, as let's say we think about the next 1 million, 2 million people that are going to join on to Avalanche, that they're just going to get destroyed by this. And this is going to lead to a shitty experience, and then they're going to say, wow, I don't know how to think and deal with all this subnet shit. I'm just rather just sit on something simple.
Yeah, this is, as Gun said in the remarks, a lot of people will say very different things. And of course, the subnet teams will be, very eager to let people, on board. And but they are not, I think, and that's why we're talking with all of them. We're talking with a lot of subnet teams. We're trying to advise them on how to, because it's like, I think Avascan is in a better position to advise about this, because we work on the visualization of things. So we have a lot of emails about users that think that we are Avalanche. No, we're not Avalanche. We're an independent team that develops Avascan. That is on a blockchain project. Yeah, we have a grant with the Avalanche Foundation, but we're an independent team, and users actually email us because they think that's the site, the website, our website is the source of their problems. So what we will do is when you have, let's say this. Okay, this page, you have, right now it's the bridge, but you can have the token, okay? So for the token, we will aggregate all the information about the different smart contract addresses of the same token. So for example, if USD has 7 types of tokens addresses across all subnets, we will show all of them, and we will show what's the different token addresses, so you can know which is which. This will be a lot of, this will be huge, because this will last months to do, because we have a similar function, a similar feature that is called similar tokens. When you look for USDT, for example, we list in the, I don't yet remember, we have a section, the token details page, that shows you the tokens that are similar, like with the same name or that include the name. But this is not a machine learning method. We do it with people, because even machines can mistake one token for another. So we do it because we need to be sure that we're doing the right thing. And this has consequences because, for example, it was 3 days ago, I followed the DeFi Pulse newsletter, and they said, this platform on Avalanche has really, really great APIs, or it was, you need to use USDC, but you need to use USDC, not USDC.E. So you will need to, they said a thing they said something that was, I was like, on the floor, because they said you need to redeem your tokens to bridge them back to Ethereum, redeem them on the Circle website, and then you can deploy them, you can mint them on Avalanche. Well, you can simply go to Trader Joe or another DEX, and you can simply swap. The problem is real. And that's why, I think, okay, this is yours. Yeah, that's why, I remember, I did answer your question? Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask about this, but I'm really curious about subnets and shared security, because that's, because the gas token ends up being for the subnet, the gas token is the underlying, and then I know there's something about prime validators, and they'll use AVAX and stake it, and that's how you get shared network security. But I think there's, I just have a lot of questions around that.
Yes, as I said, the primary network is the biggest one, but it's a subnet. You need to understand the subnets are on the same level, but the primary network is as an exception that makes it the biggest one in any case. So actually, a new subnet can surely have a subset of validators that is less than the primary network. So you will need to take that into account. But as for how the protocol works and how the consensus model, how the stake is working across the network, I think that it's a fairly trusted model. But I can't go on further because it's one subnet can deploy $1 million in AVAX in subnet stake, subnet validator stake, validating also the primary network, but it can be a malicious actor. But we won't know this. So yeah, it's a bridge to the next phase. Yeah. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you so much, guys. And follow our Twitter. So you will be updated when the blog post is online, later today or tomorrow. Thank you so much.